I'd like to call the March 8th, 2022 Sherburne County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. We'll stand for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to approve the agenda, the proposed agenda. Yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Just a note pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D, we do have one commissioner who is participating via interactive television. It's Commissioner Schmiesing, who is seen and heard and can see and can hear. So we will be required to do a roll call vote on all actions today.
Including this one?
Including this one.
Okay. Anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda, proposed agenda?
I'll move approval.
A motion's been made to approve the proposed agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Motion's been made and seconded, and then we will go through the process of.
Commissioner Dolan? Vote yes or no on the agenda.
Yes.
Commissioner Danielowski?
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie?
Aye.
Commissioner Schmiesing?
Aye.
And Commissioner Brandt?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay. So now we can move on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Motion's been made to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Now we will go forward with the vote.
On the consent agenda for approval, Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski?
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie?
Aye.
Commissioner Schmiesing?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, motion's been made and passed. Now we'll move on to announcements.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. Just a few quick announcements for the board. Not necessarily in any specific order, but just noting that the NACO annual conference is open for registration right now. It is July 21st through the 24th in Adams County, Colorado. It looks like quite an interesting agenda. In the past, board members have gone to the national annual conference. And so if you would take a look at that and let us know if you would be interested in attending, we can get you registered for that. In addition, wanted to also note the AMC Leadership Summit is coming up March 30th through April 1st at Grandview in Nisswa. This has quite an interesting agenda, and it looks like something that perhaps a majority of the board may want to attend. And we might also have the opportunity of doing a side gathering if you do all choose to attend, and maybe wrap up some of our strategic planning discussions. If not, I'll be looking for a retreat here in town to do that sometime probably this month. And again, that's March 30th through April 1st. If you would take a look at that, I'll send out the agenda again. But at least one commissioner has indicated that it might be a value for more than one commissioner to attend this year. Next, just a note that we have also scheduled ATV safety training through the Sheriff's Office and 4-H Extension. It is scheduled for April 30th at the Government Center here. And we'll be advertising this, but if you in your own circles and social media want to note the ATV training schedule for the spring, it's kind of a very good activity and promotes safety. Also, just a note, and you'll hear from Gina later, but a little bit of kudos to Andrew and Gina. Just after the last board meeting, we were notified that we were awarded $26,000 through the DNR's Conservation Partners Legacy Grant Program for prescribed burning in Oak Savannah Park. So real congratulations to Gina and Andrew for work, super work, well done. Finally, I did pass out today, we did receive yesterday a draft of the scope of work for the North Star Rail Corridor Study. If you recall, the board had discussed this in December, and we sent in some comments. What I'm thinking is there's two options for the board. Option one is if you want to review this individually and send comments to Andrew and me, we will compile them and send in our comments. It's a fairly tight window. I think, Yeah, so it's this Friday, so if we could get your attention. The other option would be, you did have a designated 2 folks that we were asking to participate in this, on the study. We could get a committee meeting together and have that subgroup take a look at that. And we're totally fine either one, but just noting the tight deadline, would need your direction if you want to sit down as a subcommittee or just do it as the board individually.
Is that something that, with that tight turnaround, because I think our representatives on that are Felix and Lisa, is that something you guys think you can, I think it's,
No, I think it was Felix and
and Barb?
Barb, weren't you? Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Because you represent the area where the North Star is.
Yeah.
So we could either do a commissioners meeting if you want. We could do a quick WebEx meeting of you and Barb, or we can just individually, you can send comments to me and we'll compile them.
What do you think, Felix?
I think we could do a little WebEx, on Wednesday. I'll be on the road all day. Thursday, so I'd be available for WebEx or phone call both those days. And it might be good to just, I'm better just, kind of expressing how I feel rather than trying to write it, I guess.
And we'll get this mailed off to you, Felix. It just came in yesterday, so you haven't seen it yet.
Right, I haven't seen it. I'll take a look at it as soon as I get it.
And might I suggest a combination? I mean, if
Sure.
we get time to look over it and send comments, I would appreciate the committee also meeting.
So if individual commissioners individually would like to send comments to Andrew and I, and then we'll schedule a meeting probably tomorrow. So I'd ask if you have time to look at it today. And then we will compile our comments back to the Met Council, or to actually Metro Transit. And then last
Yeah,
but not,
Madam Chair, if I just, this is a quick turnaround that they're asking for, probably a little quicker than it needs to be. But, we've got them moving now, so I think we want to keep them moving. So, and I think that any commissioner that has any comments or any thoughts on this should be sharing them in any way that they feel they need to. So, thank you.
and then moving on, last but not least, I just wanted to note for the board, a prestigious Triple Crown winner again this year from the Sheriff's Office. And I'll just note here, the Sherburne County Sheriff's Office has achieved Triple Crown status through their accreditation with the National Sheriff's Association. We are one of only 50 sheriff's offices in the United States to receive the Triple Crown. The Triple Crown requires attaining simultaneous accreditation through the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, the Commission on Accreditation for Corrections, the American Correctional Association, and the National Commission for Correctional Health Care. 3 of the 4 accreditations are for our jail operation, and the 4th is for our 911 dispatch center. This is, as you know, a big deal, and kudos, obviously, to the sheriff and his staff for achieving Triple Crown status this year. And that's all for announcements.
And Madam Chair, could you, because that is quite the achievement and deserves a lot of kudos, because how many sheriff's departments are there across the country?
A little over 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 some, and one of 50.
So to be recognized is, I think, quite the achievement. And
Yeah, and I think the last time there were only 2 in Minnesota. I'll ask the sheriff. It might be, we might be the only one.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we can move on to open forum, and because I think we have a number of people here, we wanted to read the regulate, how the process works, just a reminder for everyone. So Mr. Messel said he would do that for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, members of the audience. The purpose of the open forum section of the County Board meeting agenda is to allow for public input and/or information to be presented to the Board that does not require action by the Board. Personal attacks of any kind against another person, a commissioner, or an employee are not allowed during open forum. Campaign-type presentations are also not allowed. The time limit for open forum is 3 minutes per speaker, with a maximum of 5 speakers per the open forum. The time limit may be shortened or extended at the discretion of the board chair. Discussions that require additional time beyond the original 15 minutes will be recessed and continued following the conclusion of the regular board business meeting agenda items. All input and information that is to be addressed to the Board of Commissioners as a whole, not to individuals and not to members of the audience. Speaker handouts are considered public information, and the county may make copies of such handouts for public if needed, and Keisha will be accepting handouts on behalf of the board. And finally, the board chair will ensure that the open forum policy is followed. Please note that any information provided to the county board on a matter that is subject to a public hearing will not be considered by the board during public comment. Therefore, if there is a public hearing scheduled, you are asked to write or submit your comments in accordance with the instructions for the public hearing to ensure your opinion becomes part of the official record for consideration.
Okay. Keisha, who do we have?
Madam Chair, we have 7 people signed up. Should we just start with the first one?
Well, just so you know, because we have a limited time, if you'd like to aggregate your comments to have one person speak for you, the group, whichever groups you are from, that would be something to consider. So if you want to do that, you can, but just know that we have the limit of 3 minutes per individual and then 15 minutes total for everyone. So if your group wants to aggregate your comments to 1 or 2 people, especially if everybody has similar comments to make, that's a possibility to consider also.
So we'll start with Henry Grinner of Elk River, and he would like to speak on voting machines.
Good morning. My name is Henry Greiner, and I have been a resident in District 1 for over 30 years. And I'm here to request that the Sherburne County Board schedule a meeting or workshop with Mr. Rick Weibel regarding the Dominion voting machines. I've had an opportunity on several occasions to attend conferences, workshops that Rick has put on, and seen a lot of evidence of problems with the voting. I have also worked as a digital canvasser, meaning the database from the Secretary of State's office has been presented to a group of people to look at the number of people voting at certain addresses. And I've seen some irregularities in those times when I've helped with that, not just Sherburne County, but other areas around the state. I have a page, just a short document I will leave here for you, but I just wanted to read the rest of it here. Some of the issues found during Mr. Weibel's research in Sherburne County irregularities in 2020 voting. 1,150 absentee votes recorded after November 4th. 218 votes that could not be matched to voter IDs on December 20th, and 18 illegal votes. There was a total of 1,168 votes that should not have been counted in the 2020 election, 2.1% of Sherburne County votes, of Sherburne County voters. Minnesota law, according to Mr. Weibel's information, only allows for a 0.5% error. So I have his email address and my information on this document, and I would like to yield the rest of my time to my friend Dean, if I could, please. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Dean Dieterman of Elk River, and he has COVID written down as why he'd like to speak.
Thank you.
Hello. I was out for a while because I lost the month of February due to COVID. But just going to move on. The vaccine producers are protected against any liability from proliferating cases or reverse reactions being experienced across the globe. But you are not protected from lawsuits over reactions of vaccines. The feds would love it if people lost their jobs because of you. The feds love the school board superintendents because it has complete control of them. They hate you because who you are, and there is nothing you can do about it. It's not a Republican or a Democrat thing. They will push you and get rid of you. It's written in this book. The doctrine of the lesser magistrates is a very, it's about you. And except you could fight them with the following. You could do a Second Amendment sanctuary, you could do an election audit, and you could put diminishing machines in mothballs. If you can't, then I recommend that you accept the proposed workshop. And with that, I would like to give the rest of my time to Terry time. But I would like to give you guys these papers if I could approach the bench.
Leave them with.
Copy of this.
Yeah,
You can hand them to me and I can distribute them to the
Oh,
board.
that's better, yeah.
okay.
This one is the original. I was gonna give that to Bob. This one is, these are copies. You need 4.
Yes.
Because it has the book in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Madam Chair, we have Terry Dickinson, and she is speaking on voting machines, and she's from Big Lake.
Thank you. Dear County Commissioners, you are cordially invited to attend the Midwest Swamp Watch event tonight from 6 to 8 in Ramsey. Many of us in your district are concerned that you brought the Dominion voting machines into our county, and we would kindly ask you to remove them. I asked Bruce Messelt if we could have a county community action team a workshop with you, but he told me on Friday that that was denied. So I'm requesting right now that we do set up a workshop meeting. Luckily, there will be a public presentation tonight in Ramsey, so I have an invitation for you that I'll turn in, and I want to thank you for your anticipated cooperation in making Sherburne County a bastion of liberty with an honest and transparent representative government at the county level, and I look forward to seeing you tonight. I also want to go over State Statute 206.58 Subdivision 3, which states the governing body of a county may provide the use of electronic voting systems in one or more of the precincts. So this is your decision. It's a county decision. The Dominion machines were brought in by the county, and we were asking you to take them out via the county. Eric Coomer is the Director and Product Strategy and Security of Dominion Voting Systems. And he has stated in a video, and I'll give you a link to it, this device can transmit directly. When it prints out the tapes, it automatically transmits the results as well. Cellular modem from the ICP, and it supports a variety of wireless chip and modem, whatever is compatible. It uses Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, all networks, can use multiple networks in one area. And quote, we actually transmit from the ICP in Mongolia as well, unquote. So it is not limited in network. Allied Security Operations Group has stated, Dominion Voting Systems is a Canadian-owned company with global subsidiaries. It is owned by Staple Street Capital, which is in turn owned by UBS Securities, LLC, of which 3 out of 7 of their board members are Chinese nationals. The Dominion software is licensed from Smartmatic, which is a Venezuelan-owned and controlled company, and Dominion servers locations have been determined to be in Serbia, Canada, the United States, Spain, and Germany. We conclude that the Dominion voting system is intentionally and purposefully designed with inherent errors to create systematic fraud and influence election results. The system intentionally generates an enormously high number of ballot errors. The electronic ballots are then transferred for adjudication. The intentional errors lead to bulk adjudication of ballots with no oversight, no transparency, and no audit trail. Finally, Rick Weibel stated today, March 8th, 2022, instructions from Dominion on setting up the voting machines clearly shows they are connected to the internet. They can claim that it is a secure connection, but it all goes over the public internet. So what I did is I printed off the directions from the Dominion machine. Also, I wanted to let you know that on February 2021, the Diebold voting machines on page 2 through 216 describe the weighted race features. I have a minute and a half that
Terry, if you
Dean
can
gave
wrap
me.
up, your time is up.
Yeah. you
Yes,
just about-
I'm keeping track of it. So the weight race feature is a computer algorithm that multiplies votes for candidates. The ballot is not counted, the image is counted by the electronic machine. The real crime scene is the use of computer algorithms. Diebold is like the grandfather of voting software, like what is used in the Dominion machine systems. Dominion's manual states that it can do ranked choice voting, which explains the ability to do weighted counting. And I'm going to turn in all of this information to you.
Okay, thank you, because that would be helpful. And who's next?
Next, we have Nancy Hassett. I do not have a city or town speaking on immigration detention.
Should say Big Lake.
I'll add that.
Okay, thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Nancy Hassett. I'm a member of Union Congregational Church, United Church of Christ in Elk River. Union is also the birthplace of Sanctuary and Resistance to Injustice, which I know you are all familiar with, which is formed to advocate the end to immigrant detention in Sherburne County. For the past 11 days, we've witnessed over 1 million Ukrainians fleeing their country, seeking refuge in Europe, not unlike those from other countries who have fled their homes, trying to escape tyranny, drug lords, religious persecution, and political conflict by seeking refuge in the United States. Our mission is more important than ever, and we come to you today to deliver this letter. We, the undersigned organizations, join Sanctuary and Resistance to Injustice in calling for an immediate end to immigrant detention in Sherburne County. The Sherburne County jail contract with Immigration and Customs Enforcement is inhumane and unjustly targets immigrant communities of Minnesota. The contract implies that Sherburne County residents support the unjust detention and deportation of those detained in Sherburne County in exchange for the financial gain the ICE contract provides Sherburne County. We, the undersigned organizations, support the termination of ICE detentions in Sherburne County. We do not support the inhumane acts outlined in the contract, nor do we support the message it sends to our immigrant friends, families, and loved ones. We therefore urge Sherburne County Sheriff Joel Brott and the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners to immediately abandon any and all plans to expand or renew the current contract with ICE, phase out the existing contract, and release, not transfer, all currently detained immigrants. Resolve that Sherburne County law enforcement will pledge they no longer collaborate or detain individuals on behalf of ICE. Thank you for taking immediate action to address this urgent issue. This letter was signed by 43 faith and justice organizations. I clearly don't have time to read all 43 in 3 minutes, but I would like to say that the signers include the Minnesota Council of Churches, the Episcopal Church in Minnesota, the Minneapolis Area Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. It also includes the Justice Commission of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet and Consociates in St. Paul, Social Concerns of Catholic Charities, the Diocese of St. Cloud, Congregation Bet Salom, Basilica of St. Mary's Immigration Support Ministry, Women's March Minnesota, Mothers Against Military Madness, the Providence St. Cloud Unitarian Universalist Specialist, and countless others.
Thank you, Nancy.
I have the packets for you that haven't caught up with me, but when I get them, I will bring them to the clerk. But thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Next, Madam Chair, we have Lori File from Minneapolis.
I'm going to give my time to Bishop Craig.
Okay.
Just to note, the policy does not allow for like doubling times, so,
But I mean, he's the only one from our group that's.
great,
gonna speak
but
next,
it's
'cause
still
you
3
allow
minutes.
5, right?
It's still 3 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Then with that, Madam Chair, we have Craig Loya of Minneapolis speaking on immigration detention.
Thank you and good morning. I'm also wanting to speak with you to urge you to end the contract with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement for Sherburne County providing detention facilities for immigrants. My name is Craig Loya and I am the Bishop of the Episcopal Church in Minnesota. In the tradition that I represent, there is no clearer moral imperative than welcoming the stranger and offering compassion to those who are outsiders. Offering that generous welcome to immigrants is one of the core values of the more than 16,000 Minnesota Episcopalians that I lead and represent, including many residents of Sherburne County, where we have 2 congregations. The Episcopal Church as an institution has called again and again and again for more than 70 years on its members to take action to achieve justice for immigrants and refugees. The immigration policy in our country, and it is reflected in those who are detained here in Sherburne County, unjustly targets people of color, and it exercises particularly reprehensible cruelty in the way it separates children from their families. What's even worse is that the immigration customs enforcement contracts offer financial incentives to local communities to support this cruelty and keep their jails full. For me, this issue is not only moral and an issue of the public good, it's also deeply personal. My own family immigrated from Mexico in search of a better life for themselves, and frankly, if our policies and enforcement practices many decades ago had been as aggressively and explicitly racist as they are today, I would probably not be standing here, and I certainly wouldn't be the Bishop of Minnesota, because there's a good chance my grandfather would have been separated from his family or incarcerated when he immigrated as a young boy. And my family's story would have unfolded very differently than the way that it did. The policies and practices that ICE exercises in enforcing immigration laws cut against the values of my own Christian tradition, the traditions of many other people of different faith backgrounds, and the values, most importantly, that we hold dear as Minnesotans. So I urge you in the strongest possible terms to end this immoral and reprehensibly cruel contract with ICE in Sherburne County. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we have one more person? Is that?
Madam Chair, with them defaulting their time to the bishop, there is no more speakers.
There isn't?
No.
Okay. So then our 15 minutes are up, and thank you for coming and sharing. We appreciate your input, and we will now close the open forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to our regular agenda. And our first item is item number 1, consider and approve a halftime position for Parks and Recreation. Gina, thank you.
Good morning, Chair Brandt and Commissioners. So this request comes as kind of a reaction to not seeing what we hoped for. When we put our budget together, we envisioned filling our park maintenance and natural resource management needs with a half-time shared employee with the Sherburne Soil and Water Conservation District, and we budgeted for that under professional and technical services, which would have just expanded our existing master service agreement with the Conservation District. However, circumstances have changed for the district, and they're not in a position now to add a half-time employee. So we're requesting your approval to change our path and create a half-time park position that would focus on natural resource management and park maintenance. So it is budgeted for, just not under personnel at this point, we would have to move funds.
Madam Chair, quick question, Gina. So are we replacing, we were going to contract for the position with Soil and Water. So
Correct.
instead of them housing the position, you're instead asking for that same halftime here?
Correct.
Okay.
And right now, we're, as a Parks Department, we're leaning heavily on our streets maintenance crew, and they do wonderful work, and we really appreciate them. However, we're leaning very heavily on them.
So another quick question, Madam Chair. So does Soil and Water not need access to that position anymore? I'm kind of curious the back and forth between them, since it was a
Correct.
shared position.
Correct. They had thought that they would be able to add a halftime position, and our halftime position would make one person. But now we only have
Okay.
the capability of adding a halftime person for parks solely.
Got it. So it was a half and a half for a full, now we're looking at just a half for us.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I track. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Gina, would you just very briefly describe the division of labor again, so it's on the record, what this the halftime position will do versus what you're doing and what Public Works is currently doing?
Yes, thank you. So the halftime position would focus on long-term natural resource management, which a lot of right now we're contracting out to private companies. So having a person on staff long-term allows us the ability to build up their skill set to perform some of these long-term natural resource management, land management tasks, but also to do routine trail maintenance, blowing off trails, grooming trails, clearing parking lots, emptying garbages. And right now, the streets crew are taking care of trash, they're taking care of the parking lots, they're doing what they can to groom trails when it's not snowing. And then when I can, I get out in the field as well, but there's been an increase in tasks for my position with a lot of grant proposals, and of course the parkland acquisition project is taking quite a bit of time, so I'm not out in the field as much as I was.
Chair Brandt, I'll move approval of the halftime FTE position for Parks and Recreation.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the halftime position. Is there a second?
Madam Chair.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded to approve the halftime position for Parks and Recreation, so we'll go ahead with the vote.
Chair.
Did you want to see if there's any discussion first?
No, I'm sorry.
I'd just
discussion.
like to add that I think the other thing that has happened, we have so much higher use of our parks and our trails and our recreation, and I would like your skills to be utilized in the best way possible. So I think that is appropriate and unfortunate that Soil and Water couldn't make it work with us this year, but perhaps another year. So.
Madam Chair, just a quick question if I could, please.
Yes.
Who will supervise this person? Who will be their supervisor?
I would provide direct supervision and daily guidance.
Okay.
And then Tanner Anderson, our maintenance coordinator, would also be someone who could provide similar guidance.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, then we'll go ahead with the vote.
Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski?
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie?
Aye.
Commissioner Schmiesen?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt?
Aye.
It passes 5-0.
Okay, motion passed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gina.
So now we can move on to consider acceptance and award the rewrite of Sherburne County Comprehensive Land Use Plan to, I don't know how to pronounce all of
It's easier just to say
HKGI.
HKG.
HKGI. Okay.
Yep. I was working on that before too. If you guys want to hear me try and stumble through it, I didn't get the complete breakdown of how that name is said. So I go by HKGI.
Okay.
Well, when I was in front of you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for having me. In December, you approved our request to pursue a firm to help us do a comprehensive land use plan. And at that time, I said I was very excited about this project. Well, I'm happy to say that I found a firm that probably matches my excitement, a firm that's been looking to do this project for a while. So today, I'm looking for a motion from the board to approve HKGI as Sherburne County's selected consulting firm to help rewrite Sherburne County's comprehensive land use plan. And that's contingent upon our negotiations, scope of work, agreement. We'll kind of lean into the county attorney's office to help us with the contract language for this proposal. And this is a budgeted expense, and we're looking at $148,300 for this project. And just a quick background for the board. This was approved by the board for us to go seek this firm, or seek a firm in December of 2021. It's been a long time coming for this project. We had 5 firms that submitted requests. All 5 firms did a very nice job. They were all firms that had worked in our area, had good experience. We had a selection committee, internal selection committee from the Planning and Zoning Department that reviewed those 5 submittals. Based on scoring, we narrowed it down to 3 firms that we thought we would like to interview that met the criteria called out in our RFP that stood out. Of those 3 firms, myself, Andrew Witter, Lynn Witashek, Dave Lucas, and Zach Tormson, our new Assistant Zoning Administrator, did the interviews. And through those interviews, the firms did a very good job. One firm stood out. HKGI stood out as a firm that really understood the necessity of completing engagement in the community, getting our community to buy into this, recognize the importance of having our cities and townships buy into this project. And they have past experience doing comprehensive plans for some of our neighboring counties in recent years. They did Stearns and Benton County. So they have practice, firsthand experience. And the project manager that led those projects will be the project manager that will lead this project. And they also bring kind of a unique scope of technical analysis. That was kind of the underpinning of what I was really excited about. A firm that could help us analyze Sherburne County's trends and where we're going based off of the technical data that's out there. A firm that can really digest and dig into that information deeply. And HKGI has a firm that they work with. They subcontract this work to a firm called Streetlight. And Streetlight is a firm that collects big data and makes it usable. It's a pretty cool project. And I saw it through our previous project, Framework 2030, some of the analysis that was done there. So it's very applicable work that will help us get to the root of our goal, which is creating a robust, deeply supported, and bought into comprehensive plan for Sherburne County. So today I'm looking for a motion for us to move forward with this firm as our selected company.
Yes. Mark, I had a couple of questions in reading through the information, and it sounds like they would be a great firm. And I like the fact of your mentioning, because we are such a broad and diverse county, where depending on where you are in this county, there's a difference of what it is that is going to be planning and zoning for the needs of that area. So I appreciate that fact. I like the fact that I'm hearing that they want to reach out and engage across the county, because we're going to have to recognize those areas and do the proper comprehensive planning to accommodate that. So I do appreciate that. Are they going to be going out into the different areas of the county to have those outreach engagements and not expect everybody to come to one location?
That's a great point. And yes, that is their method. They actually had some pretty creative ways to get engagement, but they did intend to reach out specifically to those communities. And one thing during their interview that doesn't show up in any of the materials that I thought was astute, was smart of them. They talked about they reserve a portion of their budget because sometimes there might be a community or a group that isn't quite buying into this, but they're a critical stakeholder. They reserve some funds to help go target that group. So if we have a situation where, hey, this community or this organization isn't quite in alignment, or maybe not providing us a lot of feedback, we can go target that group specifically. So they did really recognize that in our communities, we're going to get lots of different opinions, and acknowledging that through their approach to do this comprehensive plan, that they would go solicit those individual communities and try and find that uniform vision or approach to move forward with this plan.
I would, I would make a motion to approve the hiring of
HKGI.
HKGI
Little I for incorporation, but yeah.
to do the Sherburne County Comprehensive Land Use Plan rewrite.
Okay, a motion's been made to accept this, or to pass this request. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I just want to piggyback on, Mark's analysis. I think it's important coming into a project this big that we had kind of a unanimous decision by the interview committee. I think that says a lot. And, Hoisington has a great local track record. They've done impressive work in the region. They have a strong team, good PM, and Streetlight is another strong team. So I'm looking forward to this project, and I think you guys made a great decision, so.
Chair Brandt, I also would like to comment. I was at AMC Ledge Conference last week talking about this a bit with our neighbors, and they were very impressed with the process that they have gone through with this company. So, and I also think just with the growth that we've had in the last 10 years, this is just perfect timing for us to really look at all the opportunities we have for that growth and to best plan for it in the future. And just the whole piece that they had in here about addressing housing issues for people in poverty, because we lack those support systems so much. So I just appreciated the report and all that I've heard from our neighbors. So I think you've done really well. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to comment also that I thought wanting to make sure that they worked with townships and cities in this county was also a really good thing to put in there, because I think that's really key also. And of course, all these other things are too. So.
And I do concur with what Madam Chair has said, that it's important that we come out with a document that does also have an overlay where we are being cohesive with our cities in our county as well, even though we don't necessarily do their planning, but we have to recognize that. And I think for us to be successful going forward, that is a document that I am looking forward to seeing. So I'm very excited about the collaborativeness with townships.
Well, I appreciate that, and I am going to be bringing this to you. So when I say I'm excited about this, I intend to engage with you. I intend to get your involvement. I intend to rely on you to help push this out, to make this initiative important to the communities that are out there. So I greatly appreciate the support that I've received to this point, and I look forward to tackling this project with you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead with the vote.
I just have to comment, I've never seen Mark not excited about a project, so this is really good.
Oh, there's probably sometimes, I'm sure.
No, I mean, even when he's taking out the garbage, he's excited. So.
Now, that's not
The
true.
garbage can be exciting.
Yeah.
I could think of a few projects.
Oh, wait, that's
Yes.
Lucas who gets
that's
excited.
Lucas, but I still get excited about it.
Yes.
It's Dave Lucas who gets excited about taking out the garbage, sorry. So.
And what's so great is his enthusiasm is contagious. So I
Yeah.
love to see an excited planner, because it's not an easy task to get everybody on board with the needs of planning and the vision for the future.
Are you, what you're really saying is that's usually an oxymoron, excited planner? So. All right, Commissioner Dolan.
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie.
Aye.
Commissioner Schmiesing.
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt.
Aye.
It passes 5-0.
Okay, motion's passed. Wonderful.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, have a nice day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mark.
So now we go on to item number 3, which is to consider and approve the American Rescue Plan Act and recommended approvals and expenditures.
Good
Dan?
morning, Commissioners. I'll try to be as excited about ARPA as Mark was about.
After how many years in?
Right. We have 2 expenses, biweekly expenses we're recommending approval on for a total of $11,140.31. Looking for your approval on those 2 expenses.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Motion's been made to approve the first item on expenses. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead with the vote.
Commissioner Dolan.
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie.
Aye.
Commissioner Schmiesing.
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Motion's passed. So then we move on to number 2.
Yeah, next I just want to give a couple quick updates. The first on broadband, we are in the process of developing a grant agreement that meets all the federal requirements. So I'm hopeful that we'll have a couple to approve in 2 weeks, but worst case it'd be early April. We'll get those to you to approve. And we are also are still meeting with a few townships. I'll actually be in San Diego tomorrow night to answer their questions with Midco staff. And I know a few other townships are still discussing their financial contributions to the projects as well. So more to follow, but I know it's been a while since I talked broadband with you guys, so I want to give you a little bit of an update. And then Community Support Nonprofit Program is live. We're starting to receive applications right now, and we'll start reviewing those as a staff next week to bring recommendations to you probably in April sometime. So, like, once again, just been a while since I gave you an update on that program, so I want to tell you where we're at.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Any questions or?
I just had a quick question, Dan. So how many applications have we received for that program?
So far, we've received one that's been submitted, but I've received almost a dozen phone calls, so I'm expecting activity to
Okay,
really pick up over the next 2 weeks. It's not due till the end of March, and with most things, give them a window, they'll wait till the end of that window
Yes,
before
yes.
they apply.
I get that. That is true. Human nature.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, thank you, guys.
Okay. So we can move on now to item number 4, which is to receive an update on the 2022 redistricting and set public hearing dates and time.
Good morning,
Diane,
Madam
hello.
Chairman and County Commissioners.
Morning.
As you know, that after the 2020 census, that the county is required to redistrict. And that's after every federal census to meet the requirements of Minnesota Statutes 204B.135. And this is done by either reestablishing existing county and commissioner districts if they currently meet all the statutory requirements, or by drawing out new county commissioner districts to make them conform to the statutes. This is necessary to assure that the county's population has as equal a representation as possible. The cities and the townships have until the 29th of March to complete this process and pass a resolution adopting their wards and/or precincts. The county's deadline for redistricting is April 26th of 2022, and this is according to Minnesota Statutes 204B.114, Subdivision 2, and Minnesota Statutes 237.025, Subdivision 1. Our administrator, Bruce Meslet, sent out to you all last night some of the possible options for redistricting that we will be reviewing today. And just to review with you is that Sherburne County's total population is 97,183. That is divided by the 5 commissioner districts. So that equals 19,437 for each of the commissioner districts that will be within the 10% rule, and which is 1,944 variants on either side of the 19,435. The 5% rule comes into play when there are precinct lines that have changed and the total shift of the population of people that shifts into and out of the districts is greater than 972. So based on the, what was passed last night for Elk River City Council, the total shift in District 1 and District 3 is 1,780, which is greater than the 972, which is the 5% calculated allowance. So that means that Commissioner Districts 1 and 3 will have to run this year. Districts 2 and 4 are currently up for re-election in 2020. So dependent on the options for commissioner districts that will be selected will indicate whether all 5 will run or just 4 as mentioned. So the first map, and Keisha, where's it on here? Can I move it forward? Have you got the map?
I think they were loaded on the H drive. If not, I can load them real quick while you start with the first map, Diane.
Okay.
Keisha, I'll put them in the board presentation drive.
So the first map that was presented was the 2021 Commissioner County Districts as they stand currently. And we'll probably wait till Keisha gets. Pardon? The commissioners all have correct, but we just thought we would put them up, but, okay. So that first map, like I said, is showing the commissioner districts as they currently stand. The option 1, which is presented to you, is the county commissioner districts with the adjustment for Elk River. That is included in there. So that shows the new areas and steps, which is shaded in that grayish blue color. That is the shaded area there. So of that, we're equaling to the 10% rule. All of these districts within here fall under, if you can see on the corner on the left-hand side, you can see District 1 is a minus 0.32 in percentage deviation. District 2 is a 0.89. District 3 is 5.85. District 4 is a minus 5.84. District 5 is a minus 0.59. So they still, all of these population numbers within the current districts as they are here with the change with Elk River currently remain under the 10% rule. So that would be one option. The option number 2, this is showing a little bit of a deviation. This is the one that we kind of did an example for you previously that we showed it to you, which would be splitting Orrock Township in half there and dividing out the population accordingly. And then those percentages are over on to the left-hand side. In talking with Orrock Township, they are not interested in really splitting out their precinct. So they're working on right now trying to get their town hall rebuilt and so forth. So they're not quite sure if they're going to have their elections. They're hoping to have their elections at the new town hall when it's refurbished, or they'll have to have it at the Snowmobile Trail Association building that's out along County Road 4, I believe it is. So they have an option there. So the next one is option 3. And this one, as you can see, it leaves the districts pretty much where they are, except for the northwest corner of Becker Township. And splitting out that would give us really close equalization in representation of all the commissioner districts. So that's an option out there. In talking with Becker Township, their clerk is going to be presenting it to their supervisors this evening after their township election, and to see what that status is, but it's kind of lukewarm as to whether they would be willing or not to split out, because they just have one voting location that's available in Becker Township. So option 4, this one here leaves the commissioner districts pretty much the way they are, except for the top half of Becker Township would then be going into District 4. And you can see the variations there again with the percentage deviations, that they also would fall under the 10%. So that would be another option. And again, depending on Becker's if they would be willing to do that. Moving on to option 5, that is on the east side of Becker Township, to move part of that into a district, the 4, and the changing with District 3 that goes up along the River Road, or up along 10, following the Mississippi River, and changing then dropping down the District 5 and making this is more of a blocked style for districting. And this one here is also another option. This would fall under our 10% total for our population to get equal representation as well. This one, like we said, is going to be hinging on whether Becker would be willing again to separate. Option number 6, and this one here is creating the blocks equally with none of the townships having to split or taking a portion of them. It's just blocking them out in their precinct and boundaries that they have. This one creates for District 3, it's over by the over 10%, it's 12.18%. So that one wouldn't be a real viable one that would really work in that area. So that'd be District 3 would be changing. So those are the options that we've come up with so far. These will be available for reference and for people to review and to make comments and stuff on, or even put in suggestions. What we are looking at right now is to request to do the publication, which is what we have to publish for 3 weeks before we have our public hearing on this. So what I'm asking for approval of is to post in the paper for the Sherburne County's notice of a public hearing with the intent to consider plans for redistricting of county commissioner districts in accordance with Minnesota statutes 375.01 to 375.025, and giving notice that on the 5th day of April, we'll be holding at 9:15 or shortly thereafter, that we'll be holding a public hearing in regards to the redistricting for Sherburne County. Does anyone have any questions at this time that I could answer, or any comments or ideas or anything else that you care to share?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
all we are doing today is setting the date of the public hearing. Is that correct?
Correct, and just reviewing some options.
Okay, and even though we set the public hearing and we publish, the reason we have the public hearing is so that the public can weigh in.
Correct.
And they could impact where the lines ultimately lay up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
I think, Bruce, did you have?
If I could, Diane, just add a couple
Sure.
quick footnotes. First of all, I want to make sure the board is aware of your redistricting team, your staff team that's working on this. So it's being led by Auditor Treasurer Arnold, of course, and then with Diane as Ken, who's standing next to her here, our election manager. And also, Kathy Haney has been personally involved from the county attorney's office, which has been very, very helpful. And then in addition to the 2 elected officials leading the team, Brett is here, who is our GS guru and expert, and Andrew's been assisting and letting Brett work on these as needed. And then Dan and I have been participating from administration and working, kind of bringing stuff together. And then after today, we will be adding Dave Unzi to the team to help with the public process. So if and when the board approves the notice of public hearing, we have created a web page that will host these maps, which are date time stamped, and also an opportunity for people to provide input to the maps or their own ideas, which is required under statute. And so we are geared up and ready to start the public process. As the cities take their actions, including, I understand Elk River took action last night, and Zimmerman, I think, has completed their process.
Yes, they have.
We'll be updating you either, at the next meeting, obviously, or by the public hearing, but also through, information-only emails so that you keep abreast of what's going on. The other thing I would note is that we're still looking at a couple of other options for the board. Without getting into too many specifics, the one option is probably less ideal because it might break up what you might consider affinity areas. So for instance, Big Lake Township and the city of Big Lake, there may or may not be an option where one of the precincts from Big Lake Township could be paired up with one of the Elk River Township or Elk River City precincts, and we'll see if the numbers work. But there's some challenges with that because you have some people associate. So if you're in Big Lake Township, you probably associate more with Big Lake than you do with Elk River. But that's something we have to look at because we have to leave no stone unturned. Mm-hmm. The other one, as Diane mentioned, one of the maps were slightly over with population. There may be an opportunity to see, for instance, the city of Becker and Becker Township in different commissioner districts, but there's some problems with that, with islands that we're working out with the Secretary of State. So there are probably or potentially 2 more options that we've looked at. Ken and Brett do have the building blocks if you are interested on your own of saying, well, how big is this township or how big is that? We can give you the population numbers, but really we are limited in the building blocks that you can build viable commissioner districts with. So that's what you're seeing is kind of the ends of the limitations with a few more to dig around to this week. So that'll be the process we'll use to continue this effort.
And that being said, I think we're just in the early stages of going down this path, and being as there's a lot of other areas as to townships input and different city input, I at this time would then look to make that motion to approve the setting and the publication of a notice of public hearing for April 5th, 2022 at 9:15, and if necessary, April 19th, 2022 at 9:15 for the conduct of a public hearing on Commissioner District redistricting as required under Minnesota Statute 375.01 to 375.025.
Motion's been made to approve the, what she just said. I read through that. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, if I might, quick question for Bruce. You mentioned UNZI putting maps out to the public. When are we looking at doing that, and what is going to decide the set of maps that we present to the public?
At this point, anything we've shown you is public record. The only ones that we're going to publish, although somebody could ask for earlier versions, would be the 6 that you've seen today. So the base map plus the 6 options that have been presented to the board.
Okay.
And they are in, I believe, PDF format. The census block data is available. We're not necessarily publishing it, but if somebody says, hey, we want to build our own from the census tract up, that is available from the Secretary of State. There will also be links on the website to the Secretary of State's website, or excuse me, the Department of Administration, isn't it? There's SOS.
It's Secretary of State.
And they have the entire handbook,
For
and
the
then there's a couple of really good fact pieces, so we're not going to recreate what's already out there.
Right.
But for what we have available, we'll have that available online.
And one more thing. Are our townships understanding how much they hamstring this process by not wanting an additional precinct? I mean, we're talking about 2 townships that are bigger than some of our cities, and they're not willing to create a second. That I struggle with the logic there on their behalf, but I guess that's something we'll have to continue to go down that road and have those discussions. But I think we, as commissioners, we need to have those discussions with our townships, and they actually both happen to be mine, that we've talked about thus far, so.
Right, and I have provided to the township clerks and stuff for their information, and I said that the purpose of this is so we get equal representation for all of our districts, you know, so all the people are equally represented, and that we follow the statutes that are required by us for redistricting, because the population has grown so much, and like Elk River, I believe, I think it grew like 33%. So, I mean, they had to have some shifting and stuff there. So, yeah, and you know there's going to be some natural changes within the next 10 years too. So we want to look at that as well, you know, where the growth is going to go, where the population is going to be kind of expanding in those individual districts, and kind of, you know, weighing that in as well.
Has there been a theme as to why those 2 townships are lukewarm and or against the idea? Is it financial? Is it timing?
Well, both of those have indicated to me is that they don't have an additional polling location, you know, to hold that. Actually, Becker Township's location is within the city of Becker.
Right.
So that's where their town hall is right in city limits. So.
So the main objection's been space.
Right.
Yeah, you know, in terms of your overall themes, from the clerk to the auditor treasurer is probably more about space and mechanics, and we've offered, I think, to help with equipment, and you know, there would be additional ballots and things like that, and we'll continue to do so. The discussion at more of the supervisor level has been, at least the few conversations I've been privy to, have been about more of affinity. So it's like they're not used to having two commissioners represent the township. And so that's something that, you know, it's ironic because there are places that want more commissioner representation, and then there are those that say, hey, we're represented by one, we like that. And so I think it's just a status quo inertia issue where the conversation is, hey, there's pluses and minuses. But when you get to the size issue, I think we're good to answer the questions. How do you manage, you know, 2 precincts versus 1 if it gets to that level?
Yep, and there would be, you know, the inherent cost of, you know, if they found actually a different location, that there would be another, you know, tabulator or equipment and stuff that would be needed. If they stayed in the same precinct location where, for their polling location, they could split and have two precincts within that. They just have to be split. The concerns that I heard is that, oh, there's more of a chance of errors that way, you know, on election day. So that was one of the concerns that I heard. Their location that they have for Becker is big enough. It's a huge building that they hold that their precinct in currently. It's not their town hall, it's the Legion building that's right next door to them. And it is handicap accessible, and they have bathrooms and everything there, so.
Just to clarify that statement, the townships would be able to keep a single polling place. They would just have to divide within that polling place for 2 different precincts.
Correct.
Okay.
But that
That's
would bring
helpful.
their concern for error,
Yeah,
possibly.
yes,
People not understanding.
yep.
And I mean, Baldwin, yes, they have 2 buildings, but barely. So they've done this for years. It's in the
Correct.
same,
And Livonia has done that too.
Livonia also.
There's others too that have done it, you know, so it isn't new. Actually, with Haven Township, they're gonna have to create another precinct with that 14B up in the corner, so that they're gonna hold that in the same location, because they too do not have another building that would be available for a separate precinct in that area.
And I think sometimes when you're talking about the local township level, they're just really thin in manpower and staff. So it becomes a challenge for them
Yeah.
to try to do these things.
And we have put on our website, and Ken has got that up and running and stuff, and we've also I've sent out letters and stuff to our cities and townships for them recruiting election judges, and for them to sign up with their political party of choice, you know, so that when the lists come out, that we have people on there. We're getting a number of people signed up, and got about 30, yeah, 33 people signed up just on the county site right now. So it's,
So another thought, if some of these townships were, the break-off precinct was really small, and I'm speaking from someone who is the only mail-in precinct in the county,
not any longer, it's not.
so would that be an option? If one of these precincts was a certain number, that we could do a mail-in?
They aren't.
Okay.
They aren't to that, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the city of Princeton now, with their annexation of that other area where that trailer park is, that's like 240 people that are annexing in. So they are going to be, they're going to be having a regular, and I've been in communications with them and stuff, and they've already ordered their poll pads, and we're working on getting their machine and stuff for them, so, and working out the agreement to do the cost share agreement with them.
Okay.
So,
The other thing that makes this a unique challenge is most of our cities are considered self-contained, so you can't necessarily break out, say, Zimmerman from Livonia Township. Princeton is encircled by Baldwin. St. Cloud is encircled by Haven. Clear Lake is encircled by Clear Lake Township. Big Lake is encircled by Big Lake Township. So we're really limited in terms of city precincts if we're trying to mix and match of either looking at Elk River, which does have some connection to a couple townships, or possibly Becker. But again, that creates its own challenge because of the island issue. So the map, like I said, there's just a limited number of building blocks when you get down to it.
Right, and Madam Chair, and I think that goes to kind of my spirit of this, is I would hope that our townships, seeing the limited tools that we have to make this as equal and smart and intelligent for both now and into the future, are willing to give us all the tools possible to make the best decision for the public. So again, I'll put that on my shoulders to have those conversations, but it would be nice for everybody to play ball to best serve shared constituent bases, so.
And if we can provide resources, if you will have the commissioner talk to supervisors, or if you would like Diane to reach out to the supervisors directly, we can do so. Whatever fits best for what you think is the approach. But we're now making, I guess I'd say, more formal the notices that we have looked at OROC and we have looked at Becker Township in particular. So.
And I, for one, would like to always recognize where people feel aligned with as well. It's kind of hard. I know there's always been issues with the one precinct that was kind of over by the Elk River area, and so many people not knowing, do I vote here? Do I vote? Where do I vote? And it doesn't feel like I should be voting here because I'm voting for Elk River and the different things on their ballot. So I would like to make sure we kind of stay aware of that as well as we work this out.
One other thought, when we do put maps out to the public, make sure they're viable maps. I think there was one in here that you mentioned possibly is not viable.
We can hold option 6 if you prefer. Yeah, that's fine.
Just because the more maps you throw at them, the more confusing.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
if you know it's not a viable option,
Don't put it out
let's
there.
not
Yep.
put that out there.
Okay.
I mean, it shows us you've done that.
Right.
That
And
due
that's for the
diligence.
discussion that we want to have with you all as well.
Right. Let's just keep the ones
Seeing
that
what the
actually.
options are, the what-ifs and so forth. We wanted to try to move the building blocks and try to see what it was going to do with the population, if we could keep within our percent requirements and for equal representation, so.
And the reason we wanted to share map 6 with you is that's really the worst case scenario. If there are no other precincts and potentially we lose a couple precincts, that would be the map that we would have to present as the best worst case scenario. And the Secretary of State has indicated that if that's the best we can do, that may be the one. But I agree it creates confusion if we start there. So we'll take it off for the first round here.
And just a point of clarification, so basically option 1, which is just the realignment of Elk River's precincts, right? That's, as of right now, with no cooperation from our townships, that's truly the only viable option. Unless everybody else plays ball.
Right.
Okay. Which essentially keeps the map the exact same except for that 1,900 person shift in the city of
Yeah,
Elk
you've
River.
got a big population shift between 3, so 3's got 20,575, and then 4's got 18,305. So it's just about double.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't serve, it's not ideal for the
Correct.
next 10 years.
Correct.
But as far as the pieces we have to play with right now, that's the only truly viable one that we control entirely within this chamber.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we do need a roll call vote when the board is ready.
Yes, so if no more discussion, we'll move ahead with the vote.
The vote is to authorize the setting and notification of a public hearing date and time for the required public hearing on redistricting. All those in favor, starting with Commissioner Dolan,
Aye.
Commissioner Danielowski,
Aye.
Commissioner Phobie,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmiesing,
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, so that motion is passed. Then we can move on to Commissioner
Thank you.
correspondence.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you very much.
I can start, Madam Chair. Relatively short list. It's CMRP, AMC Legislative Conference, and Park Acquisition Subcommittee.
I can
Go ahead. Yeah.
continue, okay. I had the Tri-County Extension Committee meeting on February 28th, also had an options board meeting that evening. March 1st, we had our first One Watershed, One Plan Policy Committee meeting. And March 4th, I don't know how many people knew Bob Hofer. He was he served 25 years as a supervisor for Big Lake Township, and he had passed away, so I attended his funeral. And other than that, very limited because I had a week of vacation in there. I highly recommend beaches.
You appear rested and recharged.
Thanks. Didn't say she was arrested. Rested and recharged.
Whatever you heard,
Oh.
whatever you heard.
It's amazing what a week of sun and beaches can do for you.
I had from our River One Watershed One plan, and thanks to all of your support and work, the plan is now off to Bowser. The AMC Ledge Conference had some good visits with our legislators and some good connections down there. And then Princeton Chamber lunch I went to with Dan and made a connection for ARPA funds, so it's all good.
Felix, you want to go next?
I don't have anything.
Okay, Solid Waste Advisory Committee on the 23rd, HMP and the One Watershed, One Plan on the 24th. On the 28th, there was a Tri-County Extension meeting up in Stearns for us that we went to, and then there's a CEC meeting that evening, and One Watershed, One Plan at the History Center discussion on the 1st, and that was about the Mississippi one. And then I guess that's it. Like, okay. And we can move on to adjourning the regular meeting, and then we'll be coming back in how much time?
We scheduled a 15-minute break. If the board doesn't want 15 minutes, we can start a little earlier with the workshop. Totally up to the board. We are asking that we stay in here for the workshop so Commissioner Schmeesing can participate. We did schedule till 10:30 if you want a little longer break, and it's totally up to the board.
What do you think? Want to do 15 or 10?
I think 10, yeah.
10 is fine? Okay, we'll do
10:30?
10. So come back at 10:25.
No,
10:30.
10:30. We'll take
Okay,
15 minutes.
Yeah, we're later. Okay, got it. Okay, all right.